Hi guys, Stephen here from James Glen Car Sales, and in the background we have my 335D M Sport Touring. Now, I should probably change that to ours, because if Julie hears me saying that's my car, well, it wouldn't be a good day, let's put it that way. In this video I'm going to explain why for the last 15 years, all the way back to the E46, this has been our go-to car, the 3 Series BMW Touring. Now, let's get back inside where it's an awful lot cooler than it is out here. So we find ourselves on the D562, which is a glorious road that I have accidentally kind of uncovered. I don't think you can drive for any more than about 400 yards without there being an epic corner. I just need to remember to stick to the right hand side of the road. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the 3 Series Touring has literally been our go-to choice as a family car since 2008. First car was a E46 320 diesel M Sport with 120,000 miles. Now, I generally try to stay away from higher mileage stuff, but it was Astro Blue. The individual, obviously, we just couldn't say no. Anyway, we had that car for a number of years. Changed it for a Imola red 320 petrol, which just didn't have enough power. And then in the end, we went for a silver grey 330D M Sport Touring, which we absolutely adored. We then moved on from that to the E90 platform with a couple of saloons, then back to the estates, and we've never been without an estate. But now this is our third F31, ideally hoping to get into the G21 in the near future. But just like all you guys, it's the price of everything. Now, I need to remember what I tell my customers. Yes, the car you're buying is more expensive, but also, sorry guys, this is getting in the way of the mic, I'm just going to stick under my arm. The car you're buying is more expensive, but the car you're driving is also more expensive, so that should take this thing out the tail. I haven't had a chance to drive the new G Series platform. All I can go off is the looks, but it's really just down to, we've had 3 F31s now, and it's time for a change. So the question that I want to answer is, why the 330 or the 335 over pretty much anything else? Now, this isn't going to be a video where I talk about all the negative points of the other platforms. It's just simply, Julie and I are both of the opinion that when you drive a 3 Series, you feel like you know what the car's doing. It's as simple as that. The steering feeling's nice. It's very, talkative, and Julie's not a petrol head. She just feels like, because she knows what the car's doing underneath her, she feels safer. It's as simple as that. A lot of Audi drivers feel that because the steering's, doesn't kind of chatter back and forward, and it's it does feel a bit more numb, that they feel that gives them some sort of security. And at the end of the day, it's all down to personal choice. I think the Audis have got the nose when it comes to the interiors. I think they're just a bit ahead in terms of build quality, but ultimately for me, it's how a car drives. Now, we've had 330D and 335. Again, my personal preference would be the 330D in rear wheel drive with a set of winter tyres on it. A 330D, or any rear wheel drive car for that matter, is pretty much unstoppable. I would go as far as saying I would rather take a 2-wheel drive 3 Series on winter tyres than an X-Drive on summer tyres. So that just gives you an indication of just how much of a advantage it is to having a winter tyre on a car. In terms of performance, our last 330D came out of Derby BMW as an approved used with a map on it. And I'm not joking, when you plug a BMW, into any sort of diagnostic equipment, especially one that's, I don't know what the actual term is for the BMW diagnostic equipment, but it tells you if there's a tamper fault. And we had an issue with the iDrive in my old car, but to plug it in, and it had a tamper fault. Came from BMW. So that car, to put it lightly, was rather sprightly, and because it was rear wheel drive and not 4-wheel drive, it didn't have as much drivetrain losses. But the performance aside, the biggest thing for me was the steering. It felt so much more alert at the front end. You didn't have a front diff drive shafts, CV joints and all that sort of thing. The front wheels were left to do what the front wheel should do, in my opinion, and that's to steer the car and nothing else. So back to the 335. That then, to me, makes the front end feel a wee bit lazier on the turn-in. They also ride quite a bit higher. Now, this car doesn't have adaptive dampers. It has just the standard passive shockers, and both cars, regardless of whether you buy the car with the adaptive M chassis or the standard chassis, they sit like a drilling platform. For years, BMW have been the king of ride height. I mean, you just take an E36 330 Ci, look at it side on, and it's absolutely perfect. You take a 335 or a 330D X drive, and the arch cap is absolutely comedy. So, the first thing, didn't have to do anything with the 330D. All we'd done was we just drove that car and enjoyed it for about 30,000 miles. The first thing I had to do with this 335D was buy a set of iBack Pro lower spring kit, lower springs for it, get them fitted and get the geometry done. And if the road is perfectly smooth, it's absolutely fine. As soon as the road starts getting a bit choppy, the shockers can't keep up with the lower ride height. It's as simple as that. I don't think you can lower a car on springs and get away with a complete package after that. Yes, it'll look good on the right road, it will handle better, but as a complete package, putting a set of lower springs cuts corners, and putting a set of lower springs on a car is always going to be compromised. Now, to put a proper set of springs and shockers on this car, you're looking at something like Bilstein V16s, KW variant ones, and then you're looking at 1600 quid plus, then fitting and then alignment. So all I was looking to achieve was a car that didn't sit like a Hilux, and I need to remember, this is the family car. This is Julie's car. It's not a car to be taking out on a Sunday drive. That being said, we're on this amazing road that I was telling you about. I generally don't really see sport much of an advantage, other than it makes the steering a little bit heavier, but it doesn't make it any more chatty. So I would leave it in comfort just to give it that nice light tactile feeling. And as much as this car's 4-wheel drive, you still do get nice feedback through the steering wheel. You feel it weighting up. I actually meant to bring it to conversation earlier on. When we first bought this car, the lad that had it before it had put I don't know if it was DMS, we had software on it, and it was 400 brake horsepower. And it was, they're fast anyway. 400 brake horsepower. We actually took this, and I had an M2 at the time. We took the two of them to Crail, and this was a tenth of a second faster on the quarter mile. Obviously, the 4-wheel drive helps massively, but it's still a diesel estate car doing baby M car quarter miles. Unbelievable. But when the car was mapped and you were coming out a corner, wide open throttle, you could actually bring on the traction control in the dry, and it was one of the front wheels, it was the inside front wheel that was beginning to break traction. Personally, it doesn't need it. This car went in for the EGR recall, and I'm pretty sure when they stuck it in, done a software update on it as well, or checked to see if there was any outstanding performance enhancements, and we got the car back and it was standard. And I've never bothered putting it back to the way it was, because genuinely, guys, these things are ballistic out the box. And yeah, if you want to go side by side, so we'll just overtake this wee Citroen here. We've got a motorbike up our backside, so we'll just let him get by. And I need to remember I'm on a road that I don't know what way it goes from left to right. But yeah, all I can see in my rearview mirror is an LED light. So I'm just going to zone out just now, guys, and I'll catch you back in a wee minute. Probably worthwhile mentioning that these things have enormous brake calipers on them, front and back. It's like a 4-pot in the front, 6-pot in the back, 300 and like something ridiculous. It's like 370mm discs. Now, if you wind the clock back when diesels were fast, like you thought they were fast, PD 150, 1.9, you thought, somebody come up and said one day, you know, you're going to get a 320 brake horsepower estate car from the factory. It's going to have huge brakes, 4-wheel drive, a rapid 8-speed gearbox. You'd be like, what? No. How much quicker do you really want a diesel to be? Fast forward from 2004 to 2013. In fact, not even 2013. These cars were fast back in 2012. And it's just incredible how they get so much power out of a diesel. So anyway, I better go on with the reason for this drive out before the GoPro battery gets flat and I'll let the guy in the motorbike by. Okay, he's not wanting to go by, that's fine. So yeah, I forget where I was there. So yeah, DMS or any of the other tuners will put a map on one of these things and get 400 brake horsepower. 400 brake horsepower, absolutely no issues. Personally, do I think they need it? No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm going along an incredible country road in my wife's diesel estate car, keeping up with which looks like a reasonably capable motorbike. Put it this way, the guy's near enough on his knee, and I'm having great fun. I'm having absolutely brilliant fun. She uses it every day of the week, obviously. She's a mobile hairdresser and it still does 35 miles to the gallon. South of France, filled up at Hull and we to top it back up again a wee bit before Lyon, and that goes all the way down so, to the south of France. So like it's 80 quid to fill it, £160 to go from Hull to the south of France. We usually do this run, or we used to do this run in my ISF. I used to have to pull over every 200 miles. As much as I wouldn't change it, I absolutely love that car, but there's something nice about just filling it up and blasting 450 miles. In terms of tech, the F31 can come as highly spec'd or as billy bog as you wish. Now, there are a shit ton of F31s and F30s for that reason with abysmal spec. Now, I just don't get why you would spec a 330 or a 335 with a nice engine and then give it nothing. And I mean, like, they come standard with LED headlights and business nav for the LCI model, but earlier cars didn't even come with them, and some cars came with no heated seats, no sat nav, no Xenons, no nothing. Is it the PCP thing? Is it, you know, someone once told me that if you had a car on PCP, as soon as you start to get specking it with options, that's when the payments started to go up. I'd be very, very interested to know if that is indeed true, and if you could let me know in the comments, that would certainly shed a wee bit of light on it. The main thing with an F30 and an F31 is, in fact, there isn't one single main thing. They've got the performance, they've got the economy. For the most part, we sell these things, or have been selling them to a band plane for a number of years. The only issues we've had with any of them is the iDrive, the triple C module can sometimes play up, causing the sound to die off. But as far as the car and the mechanics and the electrical elements of the car on a whole, they are so reliable. It's such a great package, and probably one of the reasons why we keep going back to them time and time again. Without boring you to death with all the brake horsepowers and torque figures, which I'm sure you'll be able to find in other places without too much trouble. Another highlight of the car is it's got a fantastic ZF 8-speed gearbox. Now, the days of slushy torque converter gearboxes are well and truly behind us. Most automatic boxes are pretty snappy if you fancy a wee go at using them with the paddles. But I personally find that the ZF is up there with quite possibly one of the best, and I'd imagine it's one of the reasons why it's found its way into so many different makes and models over the years. They can configure it to suit different characteristics of different cars, but on the whole, it just is such a good, solid, reliable gearbox. And I remember back when the ISF first came out, Jeremy Clarkson saying that the 8-speed gearbox was just ridiculous and had far too many, because it was the first car to have an 8-speed gearbox. Now you've got cars with 10-speed gearboxes, but 8 certainly seems to be the kind of nice sweet spot, and it really does suit the nature, the character of the Straight 6. It really doesn't seem to matter whereabouts in the RPM range you are with this engine. It just pulls anywhere in the rev range. The 335, it does have a bit of a stronger top end. I find that the 330 is just a wee bit livelier on the pickup, which I was quite surprised about, if I'm honest, as the 335's obviously got the smaller turbo that spins it off, spins it pretty much from idle, and then with being a compound turbo setup, it swaps over onto the bigger turbo. The single turbo I expected to be a bit laggier, but actually felt it ever so slightly more responsive. From a tuning point of view, the 335 is obviously the one to go for. if you're wanting to hit bigger numbers, but the fact that you can't get the 335 in a two-wheel drive car, for me, would mean that it's always a car that I would look to search for. It's a nice spec 335, passive suspension, not too fussed about having the dynamic chassis, and this is probably going to come as a wee bit of a surprise. I would rather not have a pan roof. You take 30 kilograms, I'm guessing, but a big bit of glass like that's probably not going to be far off. Throw in some mechanical runners, an electric motor and various other gubbins at the highest point in the car, which it's got to upset the handling. It's got to affect that initial turn in where you get the wee bit of roll. We had a E90 335i just shortly after we had a normal tourer, just like a 330, and the 335i had the pan roof, and I felt that when turning, it just felt like it moved that tiny bit more than you really wanted or expected it to. Also, I'm a cyclist, I've got a bike carrier on the roof all the time, so unless I want to see my bike wobbling away up on top, then I really don't have any need for it anyway, and you generally find that the cars without pan roofs are worth a little bit less, so if you don't need it, there's no point in having it as far as I'm concerned. That being said, if you find a really, really nice car and it's got everything, it's got a sunroof, then you can always just shut it anyway. As far as sound's concerned, personally I cannot stand a 4-pot diesel. I think they sound, no matter what model, I think they sound far too agricultural. That's probably just because I've been spoiled with a 6-cylinder for so many years. They do sound so much nicer. I got Julia a 420 diesel one year, and she asked why it sounded like a taxi. I said, it's because it's a diesel. And she said, no, all my cars are diesels. I said, not all the last cars you've had have been 6-cylinder diesels. So even Julie, not being a petrol head, can tell that there is a dramatic difference in sound between a 2 litre and a 3 litre. And see, to be honest, if you look at the stats on paper, the 4-cylinder might appear to be far superior in terms of so I'm just trying to look for my turn in here, in terms of fuel economy, but in real world terms, we've generally found that they're very, very little in it. On a long run, you put these cars in an Eco Pro mode, take your time, and you will get unbelievable miles per gallon out of the 3 litre car. And then when the mood takes you, you can go out and really, really enjoy the bundles and bundles of performance that these cars have to offer. Also, if you're just a cash buyer and you're looking to buy a car to hold its money better, you obviously want the car that's made in lower numbers and going to have a much, much stronger following when you're finished with it, because you'll sell it quicker and you'll sell it for more as well. If you've just got a vanilla 320 diesel with a fairly basic spec, they're out there 10 a penny, so you're only going to sell that at car on price. If you've got a really, really nice spec 330 or a 335, people are going to want that car and you're going to be able to command a premium. Chances are you've probably had to pay the premium anyway, but you get that back at the other end. Will we continue to drive 330s and 335s? Yes, we will probably drive them right up until BMW stop making them. We have also considered an Alpina as well, but every time it comes round, I end up being distracted by a really, really high spec 330 or a 335, because I think, is it worth all that extra money? I hope one day I do talk myself into spending the extra money on the Alpina, because I absolutely adore them. I came very, very close to actually buying one. I put a deposit on one a few weeks ago, but the dealer sold it to someone else. But that's for another video. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that drive along in my, or better not say my, in our 335D Touring. It's a car that we absolutely love, and we would strongly recommend, if you guys are looking for a car to do all for the family, or for yourself, or for your wife, or for anybody at all. I can't really see why this car wouldn't fit the majority of applications. Then get shopping, you will not be disappointed.